to get the beast up and running, right? So we signed up with SumTotal. That's who our LMS provider is, SaaS model. We don't want to do anything behind the firewall. Our first piece was compliance, get all of our compliance training migrated, tested into the LMS, and then really move into what we call that formal learning. And for there, we really structured a formal adoption process with each line of business. Because, again, we've never had a learning management system. And what we didn't want to do is, okay, the LMS is up, have at it and go use it. A little bit more complex than that. And it's, the LMS is a dangerous tool. You trigger notifications incorrectly, you've now just pumped out tens of thousands of email notifications to people, and you've annoyed an entire enterprise with the click of a button, right? Very problematic. From there, longer term is social learning, right? How do we deploy internal networking? We have 25,000 or so salaried employees. I can't put my fingers on profiles for people. Imagine the power in an organization like ARAMARK to say, wow, you know what? I am trying to sell into J&J. Who at ARAMARK has worked in J&J and can help open the door for me? That knowledge, that one nugget of knowledge, is worth the cost of the learning management system. Imagine if I am a chef at Beijing University. Do you know what the most popular food at Beijing University is? What? Right. Pizza. It's not right. Who said pizza? Oh man, I wish I had something to prize to give you. But it is pizza. Believe it or not. And we operate Beijing University, so I can tell you that for sure. Pizza is the most popular food at Beijing University. But you know what? Mozzarella cheese is not cheap in China. Tomato sauce is not cheap in China. So how do our chefs in Beijing know how to run an effective pizza business? I mean, imagine the power of that frontline manager in Beijing, or that chef being able to go to a system and ask an expert. And right down the block here, or up the block, or wherever the hell it is, where Macy's is, the Wanamaker building, we have our Innovative Dining Solutions group. And that's where all our foodie culinarians kind of hang out and create all sorts of great recipes and stuff. But those people there will tell you exactly how to make a pizza, how to be profitable, what equipment you need, and how to manage your pizza business so that something's left on the bottom line. But the people from Beijing have no way to be connected with the people here that actually know the pizza business. Imagine being able to ask the culinary experts, I'm having trouble with my pizza business, what do I need to do? Send that question, it goes to the culinary group, that group immediately springs into action and connects that frontline manager with the right information. And yes, there may be a language barrier, right? But you know what, there's great tools that are free, like, I don't know, Google Translate. And you know what, it's not 100% accurate, right? And it's not even 90% accurate, but you know what? It's probably about 80% accurate. And guess what? You get past the grammar, you get past the syntax, you can quickly get to what this person's looking for, and they can quickly get and understand the answer that you're trying to give them. So when we think about social learning, knowledge on demand, those are the types of things that we'd like to see happen in a more future state within the learning environment. We may use SumTotal for that as they're building stuff out, or we may opt to integrate some other tools in there as well. But that's kind of the deployment phases. Here's what our implementation timeline looked like. And robust, I think, to say the least, it was robust. The good news for us that we were able to implement so quickly from I signed the contract like in July, and we piloted early November, and it was live in January, right? Wow. But you know why it was so fast? Because we weren't replacing anything. I didn't have 10,000 processes to reconfigure in some new system, right? All new, fresh slate, let's configure it. The other piece of it is the decision-making process when you buy one of these tools, right? Because when you throw it in, turn it on, boom, they throw up your environment. You've got a manual like this that you've got to go through. You've got to make all these configuration decisions. Well, we've got 6 or 7 lines of business, 20-something countries. Oh my God, we got to involve everybody, blah, blah, blah. The answer to that is no, right? And this might sound autocratic a little bit, just but roll with me a second. Our thought was, you know what, we've never had one of these. We don't have deep expertise in the organization around LMS administration. So we don't have very many people that have like the scars that you get when you implement an LMS. So why would we ask people how we should configure a system when they have no clue about what they're configuring, right? So guess what? We didn't ask. We just went and we configured, right? So the first, we'll call it sum total 1.0. We figured out how we're going to configure it. We're doling out functionality into the organization as an as-needed basis so people get comfortable with it, they don't get intimidated, they don't get scared. We don't have any faux pas and send out 100,000 emails. And as we grow and people get what this thing does, people get what the power of it is, people, we have things like, oh, the LMS is up. Well, I want to assign content for, coaching others. Is that in there? I'm like, really? Did you ask me that question? Believe it or not, there are people in our organization that think an LMS has all the content built into it. And you just go through this huge library, and it's like, no, what we bought is a giant library, right, empty, right, with the Dewey Decimal System, right? Right, because you got course code taxonomy, naming conventions, all those wonderful things. But the damn shelves are empty. Now it's up to us to actually put good content on the shelf, catalog it right, make it searchable, all that happy stuff. So, nonetheless, this is really what it looked like. For some of the interesting challenges is, as we're looking at this implementation, is, oh my God, we got to do it across all of these wonderful countries. And can anybody guess how many HRIS systems ARAMARK has?
How many countries?
22. Pretty close. It's right in some countries, right? That's a better answer. In some countries, so domestically, we have an HRIS system. We're actually getting ready to implement the new one. Yeah. But in Canada, we've got an HR system, and it's on life support too. So that's interesting there. In the countries, some have something, some don't. Some have a napkin, some have an Excel spreadsheet. Right? It's hit or miss, really, right? The other piece of it, because we don't have a centralized HRIS system, the other piece we quickly ran into is, oh my God, what if 2 people have the same employee ID number? Wow, that would really, suck. And one record will overwrite the other record. So if you could envision, right, you got the LMS, this one box, right, and you pump data into it. And now we're going to be pumping data into it from all of these different places, right? And it overwrites itself, and it's all ugly. So what we did is our IT people built this other black box that hooked us up to the LMS box. And really, what that thing does is you pump data from the US in it, our data goes into there, and it cooks you up a new unique employee ID number with a country code, right? Which then nests you in the right domain in the LMS and all that happy stuff. But then what we're also building is an international data warehouse, right? Has anybody dealt with data privacy rights issues? Oh, they're the best, right? You can't even get people's emails from Germany, or the Czech Republic. So between all of that, we're building the infrastructure to do it right. Data to our global HRIS, or our global data warehouse, from our global data warehouse into this black box, gets cooked, munged, whatever it gets done to it there, and boom, then it's going to be pushed into our HR system. But the whole data privacy rights piece is interesting, and you need lots of cocktails to have a long discussion around that, because it's interesting, and the laws around data privacy in the EU change by the minute. It's almost like sexual harassment stuff in California. It is all over the place. So as we think about how we set up our organization, our learning organization, because remember, this was all new to us. This diagram does a couple different things. This is also a depiction of how our domains are set up in our learning management system. So you have us here, lady by the name of Roxana, that runs this. She's like the mother of the LMS. Then you have a global domain, you have corporate, very small group there. Corporate does 700 people or so. Our uniform division, still TBD if they're coming on board, but I would bet money that they are. They're using Trivantis today, which is great for deploying e-learning, but they could spend less money and use some total. Right? So it's a pretty easy business decision, so they'll be coming on board. Globally, each line of business has their own domain, and each country will have their own domain. So what that really does for us is it allows us to have centralized controls for the things that need to be centralized, but also each line of business are the masters of their own domain. Because every line of business is a little bit different, right? If you're in K through 12, you really don't care about what you need to do to fix a CAT scan machine, right? Because you don't use those. The other thing that this does, this diagram, is really how the function is going to learn. So we've got our Director of Enterprise Learning Services and 2 instructional design / project managers, and we're probably not allowed to recruit, but if anybody knows a good instructional designer / project manager, it happens to be an open job right on ARAMARK.com. So, in case anybody's looking, any of your friends.
What was that again, Liviu?
So the role of this group is really governance, right? Governance across the system. And as we move into Sum Total 2.0, we're going to pull together a group of users. And now that people understand and get the system, now we're going to start making configuration decisions together, right? Because in configuration decisions, there are certain things that if we turn on a function, because they gave us this great update, it only affects you in your domain. However, there's other things that when we turn on, it could adversely impact everybody across the organization. So that group will start governing the system as it grows and grows and grows and grows. The other piece that this group does, which makes everybody's life from here down really easy, is that we deal with all of the IT noise. So the data passing, the SAML single sign-on, right? The pop-up blocker issues, we got to send patches to everybody to whitelist stuff, all of that IT stuff that you have to handle. The lines of business don't need to do any of that. We handle all of that stuff centrally. Also, if we think about all the other functional experts that need support, because in each line of business they have T&OD directors and staff from a training and organization development perspective, but these functional groups don't. So what you get is you get somebody from labor relations that needs to get content. They go out, they find a vendor, they sign some contract, and how did they come to that? Should we lease the content, buy the content? Should we build the content? Should it be e-learning, or should it be some other thing, or can we just do this in a nice simple PDF and send a piece of paper out to people, right? What's the right way to do it? So the role of enterprise learning services is also to partner with all of the subject matter, or all of these functional groups, and help consult in from a learning perspective. They know what they need to get out there. We need to help them source the right content, build the right content, and also partner with them, so in between they being the subject matter experts, and if we go to somebody external to build the content for us, we need to help project manage that initiative from a learning perspective. In our food safety initiative, we've got, I'm going to say about 14 or 15 subject matter experts that get to weigh in on all the stuff that we push out there. Imagine if all those people had to work directly with that vendor, and the vendor didn't get the information synthesized around what changes we wanted as we went through the instructional design process. And we made our friends at Skillsoft a little crazy with that, but we'll talk about that in a second. Then within the line of business, the T&OD directors, they own their instance of the LMS, governance for them. They're going to manage administration, their content, job-based development plans, or learning plans. The other neat thing about that we're doing is really putting governance in early, right? And everybody wants all of their courses to be required for everybody, right? However, that's painful for everybody. And also not relevant. And if everything's required, really that means that nothing is required. So what we're doing